Oh, I thought we were having a really good discussion, and that's kind of a shame that you didn't start it.
Yep, no, we can get back to that. By the way, hello everyone. Just quickly letting you know what we're doing today. We were in the middle of a really cool discussion that we'll get back into in a sec.
Yep.
We're doing this punch still, but it's almost done. I've just got to add some shadows to Naruto's hand, and then we're getting on to Ichigo spewing up some blood, spit. Haven't decided yet. But he's going to be like, bleh. Yeah, phlegm. Yeah, maybe phlegm. Bile. But that's what we're doing. So yeah, sorry, we were discussing how people... Actually, do you want to just describe it?
Yeah. So I was working on a video about it was Warhammer centric, but the general point was, why do people resort to it's so inconsistent? And the reasoning I found through my experience, and this is with American comics as well, is that when they say we have to go author by author, issue by issue, it isn't actually because they have some consummate knowledge of the work, right? And going author by author helped them. It's because it's their cope as to why they don't have to answer you. And the explanation, or the example I gave to Omar off camera was that if someone asked, where is the Fortress of Solitude? 99% of people would say, well, it's in the Arctic, right? Sometimes it's made of crystals, sometimes it's not. And they would, if I brought up this example of when it was in the Amazon rainforest, someone would tell me, well, that's inconsistent. Mm-hmm. Me, as a reader, I would go read the comic, and I would explain, well, actually Superman moved it. This is when it's gotten destroyed, this is when it's gotten rebuilt. These things are all explained. And so it is not inconsistent, you just didn't know this.
That's true. And then what I asked is, what do you do for things where the writer has just been a bad contractor, for example, for that one thing? Where they do something that's actually inconsistent, that doesn't have necessarily reason to it in terms of writing, and it seems like
I think that's very unlikely to happen, usually, because it's never just the author writes something and then it gets immediately published. They usually goes through another medium known as the editor. Yeah. And they would typically go through that stuff, and the editors usually are the ones that are knowledgeable enough to read something and be like, hold on, this ain't right. Why are you writing this way? That's wrong. Or why are you writing it this way? This is really dumb.
So some things even have very unintended solutions too. Like for instance, Thor, in 2014, and time runs out, he dies. And then we see a Thor come back who is unworthy. He was worthy when he died, by the way. Mm. And this Thor is a completely radically different person. And if you asked Jason Aaron, the guy who was writing Thor, he would tell you, well, it's the same Thor. I'm just picking up from my run before. But if you read the comic word for word verbatim, the reason would be it's actually a different Thor that's here now. He's actually a different character to some extent. And with that, you can explain why Thor is radically different.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you have to have some solution, and even aberrations can happen. But I think the state of being inconsistent is not just having an inconsistency.
I agree with that.
It is. Yeah.
It's typically a very lazy response that almost anyone can make.
Yep.
Because it's easier to just to be like, well, it's inconsistent, instead of just being like, I'm going to go reread that to see why that happened or why that's the case. But because that takes supremely more effort to try to come up with an interpretation that works and ends up creating a consistency, people don't want to do that.
Yep.
But there's also, I feel like there's maybe some truth to it as well. That, like, because I understand there's the whole...
some people... sorry to interrupt you, but
because
some people are like, oh, that's a plot hole, or oh, that's a retcon. If something new comes up that goes against what was previously established, and it's just like, is it though? Like, what's the context surrounding it? And they'll almost never tell you what it was. They'll just say, well, it's different now.
In our time when we were all reading DC, there would be instances where there would be a concept that people thought was like one thing, right? And we would prove that over the history of it, it was never that thing. And then the second a statement came out that could even be remotely viewed that way, their stance, like the normie stance would be, well, it was retconned, then it was retconned back. when before that statement came out, they were telling us that we're like, oh, it's all inconsistent, we can't know, etc. A lot of these people just care about being right or being the knowing everything and not about the work. An example I would bring up too about like the multi-author thing is there are these books called Warriors. They're about cats. I don't know if you ever in the title and on the cover it says Aaron Hunter. And you read these books, they're fine. They're fine books, probably for like 10-year-olds, right? Maybe 12, 13, you know? They're fine. Does anybody say they're inconsistent? No. I think the biggest inconsistency you might find is like a certain cat is described as long hair in one book or short haired in another, right? Something completely irrelevant to the plot. Well, it turns out if you read like the back of the book, Aaron Hunter isn't one person; it's a group of people who all write these books together.
That's cool.
So shouldn't these books be inconsistent? Because there's multiple people.
Well, not all the time. I feel like it depends on how the thing is managed. Because when you do have something like that and you don't have the right editors or like lore people involved with the creating, with the writing, it can become inconsistent. So maybe because they were all reading from the same hymn sheet as they do in like a production type setting, they probably did manage to keep it quite consistent. By the way, sorry, before we continue on with that, I need to reply to some chat shit. Here's a thought: does Sonic love chili dogs more than Shadow loves Latinas? No. Guys, what the hell are you doing? This guy only has 976 subscribers. Subscribe, damn it. True! Sizway says, sorry, I missed the last one. I had to work on my pendulum swing for animation. Send it. Show it. I want to see it. I'm going to put it on stream. Subscribe now to this guy. True. Thank you.
I'll be right back. I'm going to grab something.
Oh, okay.
You can continue, though.
Yeah. Oh no, that was all the chat. We caught up with it. Oh, the book called Warriors about cats. I remember hearing something about that.
Oh no, I was going to say, continue on with what you were saying before you had to re-chat.
Yeah. Well, I was going to wait for Hashi to come back, but yeah, I feel like with comics,
I have my
maybe
own thoughts on it
because of that whole. I don't know if we're going from the same hymn sheet. Maybe we brought in this guy to do like a one-off. Maybe that's why people think it's inconsistent rather than like... Yeah. And then also all the different like universe resets they've had and so on. So maybe some of it is like people being incorrect. But I feel like there's going to be a few instances where people are correct. Where they're like, this is just...
I think... Yeah, like, I think the biggest problems that people have... they come to the inconsistency is that they usually just say like, oh, it's the author's fault for not doing this, and not like they never like try to like reread something, try to look through something, and instead it's because it's easier just to blame somebody else when they could just be reading it.
Yeah, they could be, or maybe they're like expressing something they don't like about the what is it?
Because like
some
I
of
don't
the changes,
see
I
like
guess.
Yeah, because like I don't see like say like authors are like obviously authors have their own different writing styles, for instance. But if they're all collectively trying to tell a story, it's not like when somebody draws a drawing, right? Everyone's gonna end up drawing differently, and they're not gonna all look the same. But they're all effectively drawing the same thing, and eventually they all have to be on the same page. And I think the more people are involved, you're more likely to have that one person be like, hold on, what about this though?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the more people you get input, it's going to more likely be more consistent. So you have that other person to, like those other people to help keep you on track.
Yeah,
instead of just the one guy.
That's true, but generally when they have, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually when they're doing comics, isn't it just the one or two writers that are doing like that run for a little bit, and then like they switch, or like maybe someone will do just a singular thing? By the way, I'm showing this punch because we've now almost done it. We're gonna add some effects
sometimes,
and then coloring.
But like,
Naruto. Sorry, continue. Sometimes.
But usually, well, yeah, but like it's like sometimes, like the main guy who's like in charge of the whole thing will be writing it, but it won't be just it. It's not like people will just be like, "Yeah, this is great, Scott Snyder. We're just going to publish this without even looking at it."
No, of course.
And then I think it's very unlikely that that's the case. And anytime that I've gotten into reading comics and people say that something's inconsistent, it's usually that they just don't read between. They don't even try.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, to be fair, I think that will be the case in most circumstances.
I've just never seen an instance where them being inconsistent end up them being correct on it.
That's fair.
And anything, I think you're more likely to have that inconsistency when it's just the one guy doing it.
I love the one guy.
Yeah.
So Sizway says, scaling comics isn't too hard in my opinion. It's up to you to find the most consistent line of scaling. Are we talking about comics today?
Correct.
Please read the Absolute series if you can. My personal favourite so far is Absolute Superman. Ooh, okay. What makes it the Absolute series so good? Have you heard of the Absolute series?
I think that's the new line that's going on.
Okay.
I have no concept of what's going on, but beyond like character designs and what we saw, what Absolute Batman looks like, and he's just absolutely jacked.
Let's go.
And his like and his like his bat signal on his chest is the head of a battle axe.
That's fucking cool.
It's really, really metal. And it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool as hell.
Oh man, Omar. Radio's like he's getting to like the very. I think he's just about near the end of the series for Supernatural.
Oh, is he? Oh, is he still loving it?
He's been. Yeah, dude, he's been texting me every now and then about what's going on. And I'm like, oh, keep going. And he's like, but I'm crying. And I'm like, yes. Like, remember, like, he's like, man, who should I cry? Who should I be crying for? John or Mary? And I'm like, oh.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, you're not gonna like the answer.
Absolute Batman looks like he ate Bane. Let's go.
Yeah. Because, dude, when that happened, oh man, that was super, super sad for me.
Oh, when what happened? Sorry.
With John and Mary.
Oh yes, yeah.
That was so sad.
If he's getting to the end, I kind of want to watch some with him. He said he's been really busy lately.
He said, Castiel will dehydrate me. Never cried the full IV required dehydration over a single character so much.
Yep. Castiel's him.
Indeed.
When is your next Supernatural video happening?
Don't know.
I need it.
The biggest problem when it comes to making a Supernatural video is just they don't do well.
Really?
Unfortunately.
I feel like the Supernatural, everyone's like still into it, no?
Yes, but my previous video on it didn't really do well.
Oh, I'm surprised at that.
It only got barely just now got over like 1K views.
I'm really surprised at that.
Yeah, unless like I do something where it's a bit more mainstream, like say with the whole what's it called, like what if Sam and Dean try to take down Eisen or something like that? That will probably get a lot more people's like eyes on it.
Yeah. You need to do ones like that. I'd freaking watch that. Would they be able to escape infinite Tsukuyami? Sorry, my brain's Infinite Tsukuyami.
Are you reading something?
No, I'm just trying to.
Because I'm like, Infinite Tsukuyomi is not Aizen.
No, I meant Madara. Sorry.
Yeah, Madara.
He said
Madara.
I did. Madara. Sorry. It's an ultimate universe, kind of like Marvel's Ultimate Universe, having different takes on our heroes. That's cool. I did like the Ultimate Universe for a while. I remember when Ultimate Spider-Man 1 came out, I was like 15, I think. God, I'm old.
God, I'm old. Man, Hashi been gone for a long time.
Yeah. The heck?
I'm back.
Oh.
As we were just saying that.
Speak of the Hashi and he will appear.
Yeah, I'm like Joe Hendry. Yeah, I almost pet one of the little kittens in my garage. So.
Oh, you have kittens in your garage. That's adorable.
They're spicy though. They don't like people.
Oh.
And they're spicy.
They're spicy kittens. Yeah.
I need a kitten cam right now. Not kidding. Kitten cam at 1,000. Subscribe to me. Go to the Patreon. Okay, I've done it now. Done my quota.
Anyways, back to what we were talking about. It's just like one of those like I feel like it's like a really intuitive argument people make. That's like, well, of course, if there are multiple writers, you know, but it's like I don't think we should just assume like books suck, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Like that's and that's kind of what it leads to.
No, I very much agree with that. Hashi is like the devil. Speak of the devil and he will appear. True.
Yeah. Now I'm Joe Hendry.
Has anyone seen the devil and Hashi in the same room? No, exactly.
No, we've been in the same room. We were in this bar once, and he was offering me a golden fiddle.
Oh,
and so I played him in a fiddle contest. And
nice.
I won, and I got it.
Let's go. Was it down in Georgia?
Yeah, it was down in Georgia. Yeah, the other airport has a Popeyes in it. That shit was gas.
Oh, Omar, have you finally got a story in hand for Naruto? Look, I'm a terrible person because I haven't, but I'm going to. Please don't lose faith in me. I will do it. Even
every time.
Like literally, I know.
I'm,
I'm like, fuck. I will do this. I will do. No, I saw the viewers drop. No, Sizway, no, please come back. No. Sizway, please. But I will. You know what? I might spend a bit of today's stream doing that. Because fudge it. I've left you edged too long. By the way, now that we've done this punch, the effects are next. And then camera movement. Huh. No, I'm still here. Okay, thank God. Oh, you're the one viewer still here. Thank you, Sizway. I love you. Yeah, sorry, as we were saying. Hey Omar, is the animation still you have Ichigo's voice? Yes, indeed. Sizway, Ichigo's fighting Naruto so he can get his English degree. Yeah, I like that. Huh, well, I'm a Hokage. I'm the only one who can give degrees around here. I need my English degree. And Naruto's voice from Lead Chibi Adventure. No, we are gonna sort out the Naruto voice ASAP. That's the only one we still haven't really sorted. I've had a few things from people saying like they don't really like Naruto's voice anyway, so we might try and get something that's more fitting.
I can't even do it or my throat will kill me, you know?
So scared!
No,
Yeah.
If I could, I would, but no. That is like a female specific male voice.
Yeah.
No, like, there's a reason why a woman voices in both the English and the Japanese.
Yeah.
There's a good reason for it. Rasengan.
Would Ichigo make a good Soul King candidate? I think so.
That's like that one scene at the end of Core 1, right? Is it Core 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he's walking through the thing. Yeah.
I need to choose a wind color. I should keep it consistent, but I don't because I'm silly. Let's choose this color for the other effects. Okay, let's go. I'm gonna do wind this first this time. Yeah, sorry. As you were saying.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just people assume like the work is like bad, and then because it leads to this very dismissive attitude where because they think the work is inconsistent, they think that if you are reading into it and trying to talk about it, it's a fruitless effort.
Yeah, which it is.
And it's like it's a self-repeating loop.
Yeah. So in your video, then, are you going to try and just break that down? Can you say that in a more succinct way? Do you reckon?
Yeah. The issue is that like I kind of talk about like this ego point twice because it's like these people don't want to be wrong, so they have to like think the work is trash, but they also have to like it comes with this like dual-faced belief of like the series doesn't just have information, right? Like a game has information, it has lore, and that's like deep, right? You know, if you're talking about like, oh, you know, in fucking whatever game this happens, when we talk about like the Assassin's Creed lore, immediately people know what you're talking about from like Assassin's Creed True with like the truth stuff, and the Eden. You know, it's all this deep stuff that snaps into people's head, right? And so we'll talk about that, but then when you want to actually get deep, they stop you because they won't go deep. They can't. They're lazy. And so they have to come up with excuses as to why they don't, instead of just admitting like, oh, I just don't want to read books.
Oh.
Or
I mean, that's me. I don't want to read books.
I mean, that's fine. I think it's fine if you don't, but I don't think you should be running these massive obfuscation campaigns.
I agree.
Like I had an argument with someone on Reddit who was trying to. They always pulled this like kind of global skepticism card where it's like, we don't know that's true, and I'm like, what do you mean we don't know it's true? And they'll like genetic fallacy to hell and back, like, oh well, you know, it's stated here that's all myths, it's all legend, and I'm like, why would that affect like first person perspectives? Right? And then it's like, oh well, it's unreliable narrators. I'll point out that like the point of an unreliable narrator is that we actually have a way of knowing if they're wrong.
Yes.
Right, and it's supposed to like highlight like, oh well, obviously they're crazy, and we can tell that because we know. But if we don't know and they just say it, then they're just right.
And also sometimes the unreliable narrator can tell you more about the world itself.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Like I think even if they're I don't think I don't think characters just lie to the viewer.
No.
I've never had a series where that happened. Where the character
Gojo.
Well, no, Gojo's amping himself up to other people. I'm saying like I've never had a series where a character will sit there in their head saying things that are lies. They're not wrong.
Yeah, like sitting in yeah.
Yeah, like I've never seen that happen, but people will insist that that's how stories are written.
I could see how that could happen sometimes, though, like if the characters like misinterpreted a thing, or they're trying to gas themselves up and lie about something so that they, I don't know, get an amp or something about something.
Well, in all of those cases, there would be other evidence, right, where we could point that out. But
yes, that's true.
This would be like if like when Naruto is like looking at something and he's like, oh man, that guy is strong. If actually Naruto is like, no, that guy's trash. Like, I'm gonna one-shot him and watch this shit. And it's like, well, why did he say that?
Well, to be fair, there is one person who does that, Kenpachi.
Yeah, but Kenpachi has a character reason for doing that. He's always holding back the eye patch, and you can point all this stuff out in the narrative, and it makes Kenpachi a deeper character.
Yes, agreed.
You know, and so with that, his words showcase his character.
Yeah.
This isn't like Kenpachi, like talking about Zanpakuto's and he's actually lying, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because oftentimes these people will use character statements inconsistently. Like they'll say like, if you use one, characters lie, they don't know, they're not omniscient, you can't use it, etc., etc., etc.
And when you should be considering why are they saying that?
Yeah. But if they use a character statement or any kind of statement, it's axiomatic, it has to be true.
Yeah, it's like say if like Kenpachi's like, oh, Bankai, it's like Bankai is like pointless and a waste of time, and it's like, yeah, if you consider who Kenpachi is as a character,
that makes sense.
To him, it sounds like to him it would be a waste of time, but everyone obviously knows that that's like, if you try to take that in like the most literal sense, like Kenpachi is obviously wrong. Like, there's a reason why he's saying it.
It would have been cool if Kenpachi was right and that was the plot of the Blood War, where when the
cool.
got stolen, they had to learn how to fight without them.
To be fair, that would have been really cool.
Yeah, it would have. And that could have also tied back into like the Fullbring stuff, where it's like the absence of power can make you stronger, you know? That would been, I think that would have been a lot cooler than like the God mode buffs we end up seeing, or like evolved Bankais, which are like talked about twice.
Yeah. Oh,
actually, you want to know what?
Sorry, Sisway says, I'm very lost when people say they find it hard to get into comics. I only started reading around 2018 simply by reading what I want, not reading everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it
Well,
is
for some people, yeah.
It looks
Yeah,
very
I think-
daunting. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Well, because it's like I want to start getting into Marvel, but then they're like, oh man, there's like nearly a century's worth of comics. Yeah. By the
we
way,
had. Yeah, I was gonna say, you want to talk about that guy?
oh no, I wasn't going to talk about that. I was going to bring up something to Omar. You know what we actually did recently?
What's that?
Hashi hates me for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Hate him for a lot of things. Sure.
I mean, I'm currently rereading JJK, and Hashi kind of skimmed most of it and just kind of read all of like Gojo's like fights and most of his appearances.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, he still hates it, probably even more so. I'm like finding so many instances where I'm just like, man, this, what the fuck was Gege thinking when he wrote some of this stuff?
Such as?
Because, man, it was just so frustrating seeing some stuff. Does season 2 cover the ultimate Mechamaru fight?
I don't remember.
I think it does, because Kosu was telling me that he really likes that fight in the anime. So.
Okay, so that does happen. So, do you remember the ultimate Mechamaru fight,
No.
Omar?
No. I don't even know who that is.
Oh my god.
I watched all of it,
Well,
but I don't remember
Well,
who
the
that
thing is, like, I remember, because Hashi and I would bring up, like, man, why do people like JJK? And then people like, oh, did you see the anime? And it's like, well, that's their problem. People aren't reading the manga. They only really like it because the anime makes it look cool.
True.
when you put in the prospect of the manga and you're reading it based off of that, then you take the whole animation like visual aspect out of it and you're reading it for what it is. And then you realize, man, this shit kind of sucks.
This is kind of below mid. What?
Like there's an instance, like the problem I was gonna bring up was like Mechamaru, he gets into this like ultimate Gundam thing, and he's fighting Mahito.
Oh no, I do remember that. No, I do remember that. Sorry.
Yeah, and there's an instance where he hits Mahito with this like little pill thing, and it explodes his arm, and Mahito's like, "Wait, part of my soul is gone."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh shit!" There's only 2, debatably maybe 3 characters that can do something like that.
Yeah.
Or like even affect the soul. It's Yuji, Mahito, and debatably maybe Sukuna to some extent. And we're like, man, how does Mechamaru accomplish this? What did he do? It never gets explained.
Nope.
Ever.
Yeah,
that's
kind of bad.
So many, and trust me, I asked Clyde, I asked Kosu, I asked everybody. Nobody knows why Mechamaru was able to do that.
Just ask Gege. Fuck it.
Like, and then, like, that was like one that already like deeply frustrated me. I'm like, that's like such like a potent thing that Mechamaru has that never gets an explanation.
Yeah.
That's like the one way to kill Mahito, and it just gets glossed over.
By the way, sorry, I have to read what Sizway said. Sizway said, let's play devil's advocate. Characters do tend to exaggerate things or sometimes overhype themselves. I agree. Gakan says go. Thank you, King.
Right, but
Sizway says, while I have several problems with JJK, but what is that consistently bugs
We're talking about
you?
JJK.
What is it? But wait, but what consistently bugs you about the story itself? Okay, that was it. That's what I was going to say.
It's trash. Anyway, so even though characters might lie or exaggerate, how do we know that? Oh wait, there's evidence, right?
Yeah.
It's not just like what these people argue is that if you read something, you just know they're lying somehow. Like there's just this like hidden way that these people know how, but no one else does, where they can just read something and it's like they're lying. That's hyperbole. Where's the evidence? nowhere. There's no evidence.
Here's a good instance. There's a scene in My Hero Academia where Deku is like actively talking about how much like percentage of power he's using in certain punches in his head, and there's an instance where he says like 1 for all 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
But the thing is like in context, we know that he's only doing that to hype himself up and like trying to say that he's exerting himself like way more than usual. Because we know based off of how 1 for all works that you can't just like exert yourself way beyond past 100%. And like there was an instance where Deku does the exact same thing like earlier on in the series where he tries to say that All Might's using more than 100% of his power, but he only based that off of another instance where he like hits some another character of like a Detroit Smash.
Hi Tom, by the way. Lovely to see you. Yeah, no, that's true.
So yeah, it's just like we have to consider context before we start saying like that they're exaggerating. But anyway, back to what is it that consistently bugs you with the story itself?
She's like,
It's
no.
It's Hashi likes talking about how bad it is, so
That's
this
true.
is a good thing. There are certain like things that I just don't. It's when things go unexplained that are very important that really bug me. Like, say for instance, the fake memories. That is just something that completely bothers me because it doesn't make sense, and they just happen so abruptly for no reason.
I don't
like why. You remember when Toto was fighting Yuji, and all of a sudden, and yeah,
that's never
and then
explained.
All of a sudden, no. Because literally the fake memories get introduced with the idea of Toto gains memories of events that never happened.
Isn't that?
And then the same.
I thought that was to do with like the curse put on Yuji. Am I crazy?
No, because well, and then Chozo has the exact same thing. Well, nothing explains it, and people had many theories about why that happens. And when Gege was asked to explain it, because some people thought he even had something to do with his curse technique or something.
Huh.
And I can tell you verbatim, what Gege says was, the false memories aren't foreshadowing or a reference to any technique. Toto and Chozo both see the memories that never existed for different reasons.
What are those reasons?
Yeah, he doesn't say. That's all he says.
Gege's gonna fucking catch these hands.
And the biggest problem I have with the fake memories thing wasn't with Toto, it was with Chozo, because Yuji was going to die.
Is the black box
he was literally
in
about to
JJK? Asks Alpha. By the way, I'm gonna.
He said what?
He wants to know, is the
black
black
box?
box explained? Yeah.
What, the fucking keto from? Oh, you mean? Oh no. Well, no, the black box in your head. A black box just means you don't like. It's like untouchable type thing. It's not. It's one of those things that sounds really mystical, but it's not if you know what a black box actually is in like aviation. It's not.
Yeah.
It's something special.
Okay.
There's other things like the binding vows is like one of the most frustrating things about the entire series because they're like
sorry to interrupt.
so
I've
pivotal.
Started a poll. Do you want me to do the camera shake on this punch that I've just done, or do you want me to just start drawing Ichigo spewing? I'll obviously do both, but it's just whichever one you want me to do first. Sorry, continue. Face.
The binding vows are like basically unexplained and they're everywhere. And it's just that I just don't like them at all. Like because Gege was basically trying to do the same thing that Hunter x Hunter does. But the consequences for them are just so minuscule to the point where it's just like it's basically the get out of jail free card for any character, and it was especially the case for the Sukuna. And the biggest one that is really, really dumb that I hate is when there was a binding vow between Kenjaku and Mahito and Mekamaru, where Mekamaru was supposed to give them information, and in exchange, Mahito has to hit him with ideal transfiguration to give him a new body. And Mahito's like, why don't I just kill him right now and break the binding vow? And Kenjaku's like, well, here's the problem: is that we don't want to take that risk because at least with binding vows with yourself, the biggest thing, like the only thing you're gonna lose is what you gained. But when you do a binding vow with somebody else, the results like of breaking it is unknown. And I'm just like, what? What do you mean unknown? You mean like you're telling me in all of the history of JJK, there's never been the one dude that wanted to fuck around and find out?
I'd be that dude.
Never?
By the way, sorry
and
to pause you.
like,
it looks like we're going to do face. Only 3 votes, but it's fine. We're going to do the face. I'll do the camera shake another time. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, like, you're telling me no one decided to fuck around and find out? And Kenjaku, the Black Zetsu of JJK, doesn't know the result of doing that, or even knows what that worst case scenario might be?
Yeah, I'd want to know.
Seriously? Like, it doesn't make sense. And I remember coming across a Reddit thread where they were like talking about this, and it was like over a year ago, and they're like, well, maybe that will get explained by the end of the series. And then some people were like, well, what if it doesn't? And guess what happened? It never does.
Gay.
It never gets explained. The power system kind of just sucks. Like, it just majorly sucks. And it's just like, why would anyone want to be choose to be like a cursed energy user or be in JJK? Because what it means.
What do you mean?
Yeah, and the likelihood of becoming a Gojo.
1 in 8 billion.
It's only ever happened. It only happened twice in the series.
Oh well. Oh, sorry. Sizway says the fake memories thing. I thought it was just a gag or something, but yeah, there are far too many things in JJK's story that just go unexplained. Yeah,
well, like, it wasn't just a gag. Yuji was going to die if Chozo didn't have those fake memories.
All right, so I'm assuming we're not worried about spoilers here. If we are, then leave.
Yeah.
But last chance. Well, all right. So I know people will cope and they will say that Gege got Kubo'd, and that he didn't want to end the story when he did, and he was rushed, or Shonen Jump was really getting to him, whatever, right?
But
that's all fine.
No, I'm kidding.
But if you read JJK, I'm sorry, first of all, but second of all, you'll notice that about midway through Shibuya, no more plot elements are being introduced. All of the plot elements that will be there for the Shinjaku Showdown and the last arc are introduced by Shibuya. If you go to Naruto and you look, plot elements keep getting introduced all the way up to the Pain arc. And at the Pain arc is where they finally stop and say, alright, play in the sandbox. And all the elements that they do try to shoehorn after that, like Kaguya, the Zetsu army, suck.
Yep, that's true.
Because they weren't in the sandbox. But JJK's sandbox is done by Shibuya, and that's why the Culling games suck, because the Culling games doesn't introduce anything but people. Those are your Zetsu.
And I brought this up to Clyde as well, that like the reason why the Culling games suck and the war arc, like Naruto's war arc, unironically does it better, is that at least we have people there that can tell us who these random like old Jujutsu sorcerers are. So we have a reason to care.
Yeah.
But nobody who's participating in the Culling games knows who these people are. Neither do any of the old Jujutsu sorcerers know. They're just like, who are you? Why am I here?
As Hashi
and they just fight each other.
Sounds like it's all hype.
Yeah, and it's just like, at least with Naruto's war arc, you have people there that know them, and they're like, oh shit, it's that guy. Like, well, who's that guy? Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's that's the second Mizukage. He like invented genjutsu. It's like,
Yeah.
oh shit,
Mhm.
right?
Or it's like, Ginkaku and Ginkaku show up, and then someone tells the Raikage, and they're like, oh shit, Ginkaku and Ginkaku? You mean the guys that got swallowed up by the Nine Tails and ate themselves out?
Yeah.
They're like, get me on that battlefield now. Those
Yeah.
two are way too strong.
But when you compare it to something like, I think the best moment JJK has with that is like Kashimo. When Kashimo shows up, it's like the god of thunder appears, and then gets bodied.
That's kind of funny.
And then you have like these chapters where they're debating who, if Gojo loses, who's gonna go in there, and they're trying to set it up. And like Yuda's like, well, it's gotta be me, and Maki's like, no, it's gotta be me. And then they all get, and then like the legal guy is like, no, I gotta get him. And then he fails badly. And then they all start failing, and then the only person who really does even remotely well is like Gojuta, for being real. Like,
Oh,
I don't know, JJK is just bad.
Sizwe says,
Like,
if your
I
story
think-
constantly relies on fan theories to explain away key plot points, I know this sounds harsh, but you already failed as a writer. True.
Yeah.
If you're trying to, like, that's why I hate the intent thing. So I'm like, if your intent was to communicate something to your audience about something being true within your manga, then I'm sorry to say, then you failed to do that. I don't
Yeah.
care what your original intent was. If it wasn't communicated properly, and you have to shoehorn it in to be other means, like an interview or like the back of the volume, then you failed. Like,
Yeah.
I
it's
do
just like-
understand.
intent,
I do-
original intent doesn't matter.
I will say, for minor stuff, I don't mind. Like when like Oda's like, oh yeah, I forgot to show you what the fruit looked like, or like I forgot that I didn't
Yeah.
actually give you the name of the story. It's like, yeah, I get that, right? That could happen, you know. Not everybody does what Luffy does. I get it. You know, that's like a very minor detail, anyways. Right? What did the fruit look like? You know?
Also, Alpha says, people in JJK are, it is what it is. What are you going to do about it? By people, I mean the characters in JJK.
Well, I'm just gonna keep shitting on the story. I'm gonna keep telling people they shouldn't, you know, be reading trash.
Yep.
Or they shouldn't be telling me that it's good or that it's peak when it is trash. Like,
Yep.
and then say like, oh, it's like, man, JJK should still be around. I miss when JJK was still like in publishing, and it's like, no, I'm glad it's over.
I do miss
then we
how
don't have to
Twitter
deal with
was,
shit
though,
anymore.
whenever like something new about it would come out. Twitter would go
No, 'cause-
crazy.
Alright. No, I didn't, because hype sucks. Hype is terrible.
And I don't like it when the biggest fight of the entire series became the Tournament of Power, where they have to have an entire chapter dedicated to other people trying to tell you what's going on within the fight.
Oh yeah.
If you're having if your series is like your power system is either so poorly explained and or complex, and characters are able to change the rules on the fly, and it's to the point where you have to have entire pages dedicated to explaining what's happening because they wouldn't be able to know what's going on otherwise, then the fight sucks.
That's true. Wait, he's still using his infinity. No, he ran out of it. What?
Yeah.
He adapted to it. Huh?
Yeah. How did he adapt to it? Well, you see, I'm going to explain within the span of 5 panels what's going on. And then someone's going to be like, no, you're wrong. And the next one. That's not what's happening. That's why Gojo versus Sukuna was terrible. And I don't care whether or not it's going to have good animation, because it's going to have Tournament of Power sequences regardless. Like, even when, like, Randy or Radio, like, showed me, like, fan animation of it, there was a lot of it that was just characters explaining what's going on. I'm like, man, this is exactly what the anime is going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to care about it at all.
I think the worst part of it too is like by the time we're playing in the sandbox, we have a bunch of stuff that kind of sucks in there. Like it's like a cat used it as a litter box, like domain amplification. They have to explain like, oh well, there's burnt out curse technique, and you can't repair that, but you can. And there's just so much like power system word fucking salad. It's just terrible. It's why the Gogeta fight is so much better, because it's using the very simple elements of the power system a lot better. Like, oh man, what if we have that? It's like, oh man, what if we have this other guy do the incantation for Hollow Purple? It's like, oh shit, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh
like,
wait. And it's like, oh wait, well, Yuta could copy Limitless, but he couldn't use it because he doesn't have 6 eyes. But he can't copy 6 eyes because it's not a cursed technique, and you can only copy 1 anyways. So what if he copies Kenjaku's cursed technique and switches bodies with Gojo? It's like, oh shit. And it's like, it actually works like way better. Also, Yuta's just like a way better character than Gojo or Yuji. Who would have thought?
You're saying that on Gojo? How they...
Gojo's not a character. He is not a character.
He's just a hype beast, and that's why I like it. Elaborate on that. Why is he not a character? Sung
Jin-woo was better. There, I said it. Sung Jin-woo was better.
What are you saying, Omar?
I've always felt that JJK was missing an arc or two, because if you read the Shibuya arc and Culling Games back to back, there's a feel emptiness in its world, e.g. being the whole US government plotline.
Yep. I think JJK does this a lot, where the world will seem like it's gonna. I see it like draw yourself a cone in your head. Draw a cone, and a cone expands. It starts off very narrow, and then expands and expands and expands. For a lot of JJK, Gege is actively taking a clamp and clamping down to make sure nothing expands. So Yuji gets into Jujutsu High, and he's learning how to use cursed energy. And he's like, all right, so I'm going to learn some cool techniques, right? Gojo's like, no, it's all about what you're born with.
Yeah,
Clamp. And then we keep going, and it's like, oh, well, you know, surely, like, you know, there's going to be a bunch of cursed tools, and I'm going to use clamp. He doesn't get Nanami's cursed tool. He doesn't use any after that. He's just a fist punch. Black Flash, that's it.
Yeah. All he learns is, like, Toto's like, learn how to do better cursed energy flow, bro.
Yeah.
That's it.
We keep going, and we have this whole arc about binding vows. Do we get it explained? Nope. Clamp. You don't get to know. Nope. We hear that there is like a wider world. Oh, are there Jujutsu sorcerers out there in other countries? Nope. Clamp. And he keeps doing this over and over and over again, and it's like, why should I care about your story if it's only going to be literally what's right in front of me? You know, say what you will about it, but in Harry Potter, as bad as the world building was, there were other schools out there.
True.
There was other stuff going on. You saw with just the experiences of one person in this world. In JJK, the whole world might as well just be what Yuji was experiencing. Do the elders of the clans matter? No, Gojo kills them and there's no consequence.
Despite the facts
matter? No.
I was just gonna say, like, the whole, like, him killing the elders thing, it was like a whole thing that Gojo was like, I can't just kill them because it won't matter anyway, because new old men will just replace them. But he still does it.
Yeah, then he still does it, yeah.
It's like, why? What was that whole, like, excerpt about then? My biggest thing was, like, Gege having to, like, when he doesn't reveal something, like, for the longest time, he then uses that as, like, a means to, like, have, like, a plot twist happen in a fight. Where, like, let's say with, like, Mechamaru, for instance, Mahito gets him in his domain expansion, it should be over. But, oh no, Mechamaru is getting up. Wait, how is he doing that? And then cuts to a whole page where it's just explaining what simple domain is, because that was never a concept that was introduced prior. It was like, in the olden days, simple domain, yada, yada, yada. And it's just like, what? That's the
what's
twist.
and what gets even worse too is Sakuna has a whole other technique that's just basically the same thing with Hollow Wicker Basket.
Wait, really?
And it's like, yeah.
That's so dumb.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, because someone uses Shadow Style, simple domain, whatever, and Sakuna's like, oh, that kind of sucks. Here's mine, and it's just better.
Huh. Don't know how I feel about that.
There's just there's like this. There's literally a moment where I think it is Sakuna brings up how like so many of these curse techniques are so old because they're passed down by family to family, yet apparently there's no way to predict which one you're gonna have. Where it's like a lot of these just have like rule books that you could read, and it's like, all right, so do we ever get to see that rule book?
No.
Did Yuji just never look at it? And he's like, maybe I should learn what people could be using since we're fighting so many enemy sorcerers. It's like, nope. None of that ever happens. No character ever reads these manuals. You know, that never happens.
I feel like that's a massively missed opportunity.
Oh, you want to hear a missed opportunity? You want to hear a missed opportunity?
Uh-oh.
There is 2 pages dedicated to Gojo being like, "Yo, Megami, you know why the 3 big jujitsu families hate each other?" He's like, "Why?" He's like, "Because they used to fight."
What? What?
I'm not kidding you. I will on God send you the pages. That is exactly what he says. He's like, "You know why they have bad blood?" He's like, "Because they used to fight in the past."
Guys, JJK's ass.
And then later on, he's like, and you know who like the like 2 of the big heads were? He's like, another 6 eyes user with Limitless, and the other had like the 10 like shadows or whatever.
Yeah, but then it's like Maharaga apparently just never they never used Maharaga against it.
I thought no one had tamed Maharaga before. Am I crazy?
But then it's like, why would the 10 shadows be useful? They suck.
Yeah.
Most of them, yeah. The only one that's useful is the last one. The biggest thing that I have is like we get introduced to like oh, you know, the 2 big heads. Like we basically get told about, like, this is my example, is we get told about the Uchiha and the Senju. They fought in the past, and that's why they have bad blood. And we just got told, like, oh, there's these 2 characters called Hashirama and Madara, and we don't know anything else about them. That's it. That's what Gojo tells us, and we don't know any more information beyond that point.
What's wild is that in Naruto, the Senju actually had countermeasures to the Sharingan.
Yep.
In JJK, is there? Oh wait, people can't learn techniques. I forgot. So surely someone, you know, if you can invent simple domains, surely they had some counter to.
That's true, actually. Yeah, if you can create simple domains, there must have been a way to create new techniques.
No, well, not just that. We see Yuji learns like 2 techniques. Yeah. He learns the blood stuff, and then he eventually like picks up on Sakuna's stuff. It's like, oh, that's because Sakuna was part of him. Are you sure that's the only reason why? Are you sure if you didn't just try?
Maybe that's like an unreliable narrator thing as well. Oh, Sisway says, people keep saying the problem with JJK's world building is that it's too focused on Japan, or that it's limited by our real world setting. But to me, it's not the main problem, it's just the symptom. That's fair. I think you could have done it really well in our world.
I think like the urban fantasy, like urban spellcasters could have been really cool, especially with like the curtain stuff that they have to do. And like, especially early on, there's always like the talk about how these people all saw it or whatever. You could have did a lot with that. But they don't. They don't do anything. Like, and you don't even have to, right? I'm not saying it has to be urban. I'm not saying you have to have Gojo posting on Tinder or something like that.
Yeah, you do. What do you mean?
But at the same time, when Gege is constantly clamping down, the pressure goes somewhere, right? If you have a balloon and you push in from 2 sides, 2 other sides pop out. And the pop-outs that we got in JJK was this really overly wordy power system that doesn't do anything. And like hype moments. And that's it.
But you gotta admit, the hype moments were cool. No, I'm kidding.
They weren't.
I know, I was I was just saying that to you because I know you hate it.
Yeah.
I know you hate it with a passion. Look, I like hype.
I remember watching like like this was before I read JJK. I was watching Pins read like the chapters with Gojo fighting Sukuna. And he was like, oh, he's using domain amplification. I'm like, oh, that's something. All right, cool. I guess I'll learn about that later. And then you learn about it later, and it's garbage.
What I don't like is just like, because now thinking about it, domain amplification mainly gets introduced during Shibuya when they're fighting like when Jogo and Hanami were fighting Gojo, and then it's like, man, why didn't Jogo think about this during his first fight with Gojo? Because he's like, man, how do I touch him? And he's like, oh, I know, domain expansion. Let me use my most powerful move in my arsenal to touch him.
Although,
it's like, dog, you have domain amplification.
Although that is kind of proof of something. If domain expansion does work on an Infinity user, that does mean that Infinity doesn't block things like that. Because Gojo actively had to block stuff in there. Like, he couldn't just, like, be like, oh, Infinity's got my back. That's another anti-feat for Infinity.
Dang, struggling to draw his nose today. What is going on?
You should have him break his nose mid-fight and have to reset it.
That'd be cool. No, he wouldn't have to reset it because of the, Actually, no, he still would, actually, I suppose. Because I was going to say the high-speed regeneration, but you'd have to reset it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say, high-speed regeneration could lead to stuff like cauliflower ear and shit like that.
You don't even know what Yuji's domain is named and what it even does. True.
Yes, yes. The main character gets his domain expansion, finally. We don't know what it does or what its name is.
It just wins.
Seems like there's a consistency.
See, if you compare, like, the two, like, Bleach and JJK, in Bleach, it's like, oh, well, you know, Ichigo had, like, Rukia's sword this whole time, which means that he never actually had his own Bankai.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. And in JJK, it's like, yeah, well, Yuji's been Sukuna this whole time, so he really never oh, wait, he can't have a curse technique. We already said he couldn't.
Yeah.
But he has a domain, apparently. What's it called? Oh, yeah, no, you don't get a name.
I just don't like how limited the power system is. Like, even the character Mei says that there is a limit to how strong you can become in terms of your physical body and how much you can, like, imbue yourself with cursed energy to make yourself stronger. And in the same breath, she says, you know, the quickest way to make yourself stronger and go to, like, the next highest level of Jujutsu sorcery? Make a binding vow. That's why I hate it so much. It's like the quintessential Deus Ex Machina of JJK. Oh, you can't beat them? We'll just make a binding vow real quick. It's like, you're having trouble, like, making this person do what you want? Make a binding vow.
Okay, now that I've edited this one, I'm going to have to edit the next one. Because as you can see, I haven't done, like, the red lines exactly where they were, because I'd actually drawn the face with wrong proportions. So on the next frame, I'm going to have to move up the hairline, adjust it a bit, and also change his face. Don't know if I should do a blank frame, though. Wait, I hope this is still playing the... In JJK, Skinner gets a free pass on everything. True. It's annoying AF. It's because he's the strongest of all time!
Self-proclaimed. Self-proclaimed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because who's the dude who
never
was
do
before?
anything with that either. Toji?
Was it?
There's literally a scene in the story where, like, I think it's during the Sukuna fight where Gojo's like, man, who was the last guy who pushed me this far? And it's Toji.
No way. Seriously?
Yeah, that's actually a scene in the story.
That's kind of nuts.
Not only that, it's bad world building.
Yeah. So was Toji the one who like sealed him before? Like what?
Oh, you mean in the prison realm?
Yeah. No, I meant
No.
Sorry, I didn't mean Gojo. I meant Sukuna.
Oh, Sukuna? Oh no, they never tell you.
Yeah.
No, they never.
Yeah, we just don't know anything about Sukuna's past, like, whatsoever. We don't get, like I said, we don't get Hashirama sitting down and telling us the origins of the Leaf Village
Yeah.
and the relationship he has with Madara. We don't get that with Sukuna. We just get told, oh, he used to be a human once, then he became a curse, then he was really, really evil. Then people started fighting him.
In real life, you and I think there's some people who've done videos. You could do a history about who's been the baddest man on the planet, right?
Yeah.
And you talk about like how for these years it was probably like the heavyweight champion of the world in boxing, right? Or like a wrestler, and you'd have that debate up till about like the 90s where there's pride in be Fedor for a while, right? Until Fedor loses, and then eventually you get to like Francis Ngannou, and that's where we're at today. In JJK, it's like, well, it was Sukuna, and then Sukuna lost. Well, like, Sukuna's still the strongest, apparently. Maybe he got, like, hacked out or something like that, or he got, like, tricked. Sure, right? Or whatever. People have, like, I've seen cope about it where, like, he didn't actually die or something like that, right?
Like
and then
he
it was, like...
off his fingers himself, like...
yeah, or something like that, right? Whatever. It's Sukuna for, like, ever, but he's gone, so we have to have, like, an interim strongest dude ever for a bit.
Yeah.
And apparently it was Kashimo, if I remember what it says, right, where Kashimo was the strongest for a while. And then eventually it's Gojo. But Gojo just says he's the strongest, so it's like, wait a minute, it's just who says they're the strongest?
Yeah.
The strongest? And it just starts, it gets so muddy really fast. When in Naruto, if you do the same thing, it's really simple. It's like, oh, it was Indra for a bit until Ashura beat his ass, but I guess it was Hagoromo the whole time. But since Hagoromo was like dead, but also now we have to have an interim strongest ever. And eventually it becomes Madara. Madara's gone, so we have to have like an interim who's like the Hokage for most of the series. Until debatably when Hiruzen's old and decrepit. And at that point, it's like, who do you want to say it is? I guess the Raikage, right, at that time, probably. Right, or what's his face? Inoki, maybe.
Yep.
Right, or Killer Bee, if you want to argue Killer Bee was like, or Itachi, right? Like, any of these people you could pick out.
Yeah.
And then that continues till the war arc, and then eventually it's like Naruto or Sasuke, pick your poison. Because they're like even.
Yeah.
And then it's Naruto. And that's the history of the baddest man on the planet, just off the dome.
Yeah. Well,
You can't
most
Like,
of
and
it
there's a lot. That's the thing is, like, we see a lot of things that it's like
No,
there's, like, some actual back and
Serpon,
forth.
that's not my point. My point is, in Naruto, Madara's like intimidating. Don't get me wrong, he has aura and all that shit. But the whole point of the strongest isn't made in Naruto.
True.
Strength matters, sure. And Hashirama was strong, and you can say, well, that's how he united the village, sure. But the whole point was that they were so strong, other people didn't have to be. And Naruto makes that point in Boruto as well. In JJK, where one of your most popular characters calls himself the strongest, he says it almost every chapter, we have no lineal title. WWE keeps track of who's the baddest dude in the roster better than JJK does.
And all we really get told is just like, oh, because Gojo has the 6 eyes and he's the limitless curse user, they're like, oh, like, and because he did stuff when he eventually became an adult, like curse energy, like cursed users like dwindled or whatever, and he flipped like the thing on its head.
Yep.
Sorry, I realised I've done this shoulder pad slightly wrong. Always these first drawings of like the frame is the hardest, especially when doing the face, just so that you know like where everything is and then moving it thereafter. We're going to do this all of next time as well, probably. let me read the chat real quick. To make yourself stronger in JJK is apparently soul swapping, literally Deus Ex Machina moment, and binding vows that don't seem to have limitations. How did Sukuna die again? Was he killed or did he die of old age or something?
I forgot. I think it's like said, but it's like one of those. What's his fucking name? I forgot what the translator's name is, but like the really bad one, and like people have done
John Wary.
Yeah, people have done deep dives on it on Twitter. I know it's a complicated thing, but because everybody was like hyping up the guy who beat him originally. How did he lose originally? And some people were saying he didn't lose, and it's a bunch of stuff. It's a very complicated thing for as mid of a series as JJK is.
I mean, they could have done something really cool by saying it was the previous Six Eyes user who had Limitless. That would have been interesting.
No, it wouldn't.
No?
No, because you can't...
I mean, more interesting than not telling us.
I think having them have like a different way to beat, because to make Sukuna kind of like have to learn how to beat Infinity is what makes the fight so interesting.
True.
And that's why I think if the story was one note either way, like, oh, Sukuna pulls out Maharaga, Gojo doesn't one-shot it, and then Sukuna wins, that would be boring. Or Sukuna just beats Gojo just beats Sukuna again, and then they use the last finger, which was hidden, but we didn't know that at the time. We just thought it was somewhere else, right? That's also not interesting. The fight has to have twists and turns. As bad as the turns of like domain amplification and like the binding vow are, there's still twists and turns.
That's true.
Yeah, because like the quintessential what kills Gojo was a binding vow.
Yeah, it's a binding vow on an attack that like Sukuna made up. It's like a modification of his technique.
Yeah.
I really like what Eternal Flames video series on what if Yuji got blood manipulation early actually bothered to explain certain things the series didn't bother delving into. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the story would be much better if Yuji actually had a curse technique.
Mm-hmm. And not just he punched good.
Yeah.
Which the thing is, which the series is like self-aware about that all Yuji does is just punches. But that's still not good.
Yeah. I need to
his editor had to, like, I kid you not, his editor had to beg Gege to like give Yuji something. And that is why, like, give him like an arc where something really cool happens initially, and that's why we got like the stuff where him and like Nobara are like fighting like the hidden like death painting, like the death painting children.
Yeah.
Like Chozo's brothers.
I think JJK is like one of those things where if you describe it on paper, it could sound really cool, but then when you read it, it's not cool. Like Domain Expansion was better before I knew what it was.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, did you know you can like change rules on the fly? And it's just like, wait, you can do that?
Yeah.
And it's like, since when? And it's like, since we had to find a way to make Gojo have like a twist and turn within the fight. Or you just have to make a binding vow.
1 second. Turn off this so I can just see if we're doing it right. Let's see. Is there something wrong with this Ichigo faith? Oh yeah, I didn't do his top lip. Gotta have that, otherwise it's not Ichigo. It is very detailed for him, but I have to, considering we're trying to sell this thing. Yuji being a punch kick merchant isn't a bad idea, but to make it work, he needs to be the best punch kick merchant in the series. I agree.
Yeah, well, but like he basically yeah.
In order to do that, if you want to do like the punch kick merchant thing, you have to have interesting fights. And the first fight, the first major fight you put Yuji in, it's like, oh, Mahito. And this sounds interesting, right? Like, Mahito can disfigure you with touch, and Yuji has to touch him, right? Oh, wait. Touching doesn't matter because it's Sukuna.
Yeah.
Yawn, right?
Yawn. Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, I'm trying to remember. And then it's just like, oh, it turns out Kenjaku is just, yeah, he is just the Black Zetsu of the series. And he's basically the reason why Yuji is the way he is. And it's just like, Naruto did that and it was bad. Why are we doing this again? And he didn't even do it in a clever way either. Like, honestly, Hashi had a much better way of making the culling games interesting than Gege did.
Yep.
I mean, that's because
So what
Hashi
you do-
is the GOAT.
What you do is you explain that like binding vows are all made with Kenjaku, and people just thought that Kenjaku was like the equivalent of truth from Full Metal Alchemist.
That's cool.
And so the culling game stays exactly the same, except for Kenjaku explains, yeah, all those binding vows you've been making, because y'all thought that was the only way to get stronger, have been with me. And I'm calling my bets. So y'all are gonna fight, and I'm gonna watch.
Yeah.
And already right there, the world is infinitely more interesting.
Because then they'll be like, oh, now people are going to get revived because they owe Kenjaku a favor.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to move some of this down.
I'll say this. One of the few characters that make like Binding Vow like a cool like thing is with the best character in the entire series, Nanami.
Yes.
Yeah. But even then,
It's
it's
just
like
like-
who. Even though it
Yeah.
sounds really cool what he does, it's like, who do you make it with? How do you make a
Himself.
binding vow? Who enforces it?
Hergader, I don't know. It's never explained. Because like at the very least, the thing was, oh my
Oh, that's
god.
fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, knocked over a few cans, my bad, Chief.
Okay.
Yeah, what I was gonna say was like with at least with Hunter x Hunter, there's like a huge emphasis on whatever you're trying to gain from like this contract you're making with yourself has to be like an equivalent exchange. So like, say for instance, like, oh, this character wants to become. I won't spoil it for Hashi. It's like this character's like, I really want to become stronger. This ability becomes stronger. How do I do that? And it's like, oh, I'll make it so if I use this ability on anybody else except for these specific people, then I will die
Yeah.
as a result of breaking it. And it's just like, okay, it makes them stronger, but it's also a limitation that has consequences if broken. What happens when you break a binding vow? Oh, you just lose what you've gained.
Really? That's butt.
Yes, that is verbatim what Kenjaku says. Because when he was trying to explain to Mahito, he said the difference when you're trying to impose a binding vow on yourself is that you only lose what you've gained.
That's so dumb.
So it's like there's no real consequence unless you like are actively doing like say like what Hakari does, where he chops off his arm. He's like, now I want to make a binding vow. I chopped off my arm in order to like reset something with my gambling domain expansion or whatever, or gain more cursed energy. It's just like, oh, I broke it? Well, I don't have it anymore. It's like, okay, so what stops them from making the binding vow again? Nothing. Nothing prevents them from doing that.
That's true. Sorry, I'm just locking in because I'm trying to figure out which parts I need to remove. Oh, I want to change them. What I might have to do... yeah, I might have to do this. And draw the eyes like changing slowly, then moving them up. That's probably what I have to do. check.
I'll read someone says the biggest sin of the series for me is not even explaining what the merger is. It's one thing not even showing. It's one thing not even showing it at all, but it's unforgivable not even letting us know what it even does.
Yeah.
Because that was like Kenjaku's whole plan was the merger, and but just it never happens, and Yuta just kills him. It's like, wow, like one of the basically the other big bad of the series besides Sukuna dies in a fight with Yuta. Like, honestly, it was so much better when, like, a better fight that does that better is, like, say, Itachi, like, Edo Itachi versus Sage Kabuto, where it's just, like, where Itachi has to figure out how is he going to, like, do something where it's just like, oh, wait, killing Kabuto is not going to change anything, so how do I make him undo the Edo Tensei? Because it's not going to change anything just by killing him, and he has to figure out a way while he's actively trying to not die. And it's not the same with Kenjaku, where it's like, oh, if you basically kill Kenjaku, then the Colin Gang stop.
Right, we're gonna head off because I've gone a lot over in terms of time. But we've done the punch. I've now got to spend all of next time doing his face. His face is going to be the hardest thing, and then once we got that done, it's all going to be sorted. The reason it's the hardest is because we have to make sure it's consistent. And like as we move it, we have to make sure things don't look like they enlarge like some of this stuff does here. And we have to move and change it accordingly. So I'll probably be doing that a lot off stream, just to try and make sure that I get it right. And then we can, yeah, finish things as they are. Right, okay, love you all. Thank you for joining us as per usual. You're all the goats. You could all beat Sukuna and Gojo in a 1v1, because I believe in you. And we could all beat Gege at writing. Love you all. See you next week.